you'd like to, you can go ahead and write these down. I probably will not reference them specifically by chapter and verse, but there are four different scripture references in the Gospel of John where John, the young apostle, the youngest of the apostles, references himself in the telling of the gospel story as the one whom Jesus loved. And it's really interesting. And I'd like to just kind of challenge you. We're going to look at that tonight, and we're going to play with the meaning and the understanding of that. And I think it probably could be better translated or better said in our language. He was the one who was convinced that Jesus loved him.
Yes.
Probably more than the others. Jesus didn't love him more, but he was the one who was convinced that Jesus loved him. And those references are John chapter 19, verse 26. 19:26, when Jesus then saw his mother, this is when Jesus is on the cross, when Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing nearby, he said to his mother, "Woman, behold your son." And then and all of these are after that moment. So here Jesus is on the cross, and he sees the disciple whom he loved. Now, I think none of us are convinced that he didn't love the others, but this is the one that was convinced. The other three references are John chapter 20, verse 2. So she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and said to them, "They have taken away the Lord out of the tomb, and we do not know where they have laid him." Then the next reference is John chapter 21, verse 7. Therefore that disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, "It's the Lord." So when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put his outer garment on, for he was stripped for the work of fishing, and threw himself into the sea. In other words, he dove in. Interesting how, the old language says he threw himself into the sea. He actually dove in, I'm sure. And also chapter 21, John chapter 21, verse 20. The disciple whom Jesus loved, following them, the one who also had leaned back on his bosom at the supper.
That's also which I read tonight during Prius. It's John 13:23.
And what is that one?
13:23.
So there's another one?
Yeah, John 13:23.
Well, let's just look it up real quick so I can verify that before I give it. John 13:23?
Yeah, that's one I read during prayer, actually, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I think it was probably actually when the supper was going on at that time. Or, he was recounting
Oh, yeah. In John 13:23. Very good.
yeah.
I'll read that for us here.
It's right behind you, Rick.
Yeah. There was reclining on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. So, good. All right, ready? So let's just, during this time of praise and worship, this is one of the ways that we actually express our love to the Lord. But what I'd like to look at tonight is sometimes we will focus on expressing our love to the Lord when really the greater need we might have is actually becoming truly convinced that he really loves us. So, our interaction with the Lord during a time of worship in his presence isn't just about telling him how much we love him. He actually already knows that without us even saying it. Sometimes the greater need we have is to not so much receive his love, but to ask him to convince us how deeply he does love us. We have a need for that. always. And so let's keep that in our focus too. Amen? Sir?